Command code invalid.
Be the first to know the latest updates, breaking news, and mind-blowing insights about your favorite movies. Subscribe now and become a true movie spy. Here are 10 terrible Star Trek episodes to watch when you're feeling eerie, from the absolutely horrific to the insidiously disturbing. Star Trek is recognized for experimenting with various storytelling techniques and even dipping into the horror subgenre. Star Trek has always taken pleasure in pushing the limits of the kinds of tales it can tell, from comedies to crossovers to, more recently, musicals. Every Trek series contains at least one terrifying episode because Star Trek has been delivering spooky space stories since Star Trek, the original series. Numerous traditional horror clichés have been included in Star Trek, including a spooky abandoned vessel, ferocious alien invasions, and medical experiments. Star Trek may be most known for its challenging or daring episodes as well as its attempts at humor, but the show is equally adept at handling the horror genre. In their drive to discover the unknown, Starfleet captains encounter plenty of horrors, and Star Trek is not shy about illustrating the numerous perils of space. Here are 10 genuinely horrifying Star Trek episodes that give fans nightmares, whether you need something to watch during the Halloween season or just appreciate a good scare. Don't claim that we failed to warn you. Season 2, Episode 7 of Star Trek, the original series, Bata. Star Trek Catspaw. Scotty Spock's Catspaw from Star Trek, the original series, contains all the makings of a creepy Halloween story, including witches, black cats, and skeletons. This episode makes up for what it lacks in actual fear with its eerie atmosphere. When Dr. Leonard McCoy, Spock, and Captain James T. Kirk beam down to a planet to look for the missing landing party, they discover a medieval castle presided over by the enigmatic and potent Korob and Sylvia. This episode, which was written by Robert Bloch, who also penned the book Psycho, debuted in 1967, just around Halloween. Season 4, Episode 17 of Star Trek, The Next Generation, Night Terrors, Fears from Star Trek TNG Crusher, Doctor. One of the best-known instances of how horror movies manipulate dreams and nightmares is Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street. In Night Terrors, a Star Trek, The Next Generation episode, the crew of the Enterprise struggles to go into REM slumber, which causes some rather terrible hallucinations. It's actually unsettling to consider the possibility of an entire ship of passengers slowly growing insane before turning on one another and doing horrific harm to everyone. Thankfully, Commander Data, an android, is aboard the Enterprise D, who doesn't dream or sleep. He collaborates with the psychic counselor Deanna Troi, a half-betazoid, to find a solution and rescue the day. Context is for Kings of Star Trek, Discovery Enterprise. Discovery Kings is for context. Michael the Terror that is there in context is for Kings from Star Trek. Discovery Season 1 more than makes up for the episode's brief absence from the horror genre. Following a request for assistance from the US Discovery to look into an incident on their sister ship, the US Glenn, an away team commanded by Michael Burnham finds the horrifyingly dismembered remains of the crew. The majority of the sequences on board the Glenn are shot in the dark, with the spotlights of the boarding party revealing the terrible images of the bodies. In a menacing last turn, it is revealed that Ripper, the enormous tardigrade who killed Glenn's crew, is currently under the control of Captain Gabriel Lorca of the Discovery. Season 3, Episode 5 of Star Trek, Enterprise, Impulse. Zombies from Star Trek Enterprise. Impulse. The episode Impulse of Star Trek, Enterprise begins with T'Pol being restrained in sickbay while screaming ferociously. T'Pol's outburst here starts the show off on an unsettling note because she normally embodies Vulcan stoicism. A day prior, Captain Jonathan Archer and the Enterprise received a distress signal from a Vulcan ship. At that point, the story flashes back to that day. They discover a crew of Vulcans that resemble zombies when they board the inexplicably drifting ship, forcing them to battle their way back to their shuttles. T'Pol quickly starts to exhibit signs resembling those of the Vulcan zombies. Even if Vulcan zombies are unsettling enough, T'Pol's condition is particularly unsettling. Season 1, Episode 9 of Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. All those who wander from Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. Season 1 has chest-bursting alien hatchlings and an atmosphere that is evocative of Ridley Scott's Alien films. In the episode, Captain Christopher Pike and the Enterprise react to the US Peregrine's distress call after it went 4 days without communication. They discover the gruesome remnants of the Peregrine's crew when they reach the planet Valio Beta V, which is where the final signal from the spacecraft originated. The Enterprise crew quickly runs into a number of dangerous Gorn hatchlings. They battle the remaining hatchlings as Bruce Horak's character, Hammer, is infested by Gorn eggs and subsequently gives his life to save his comrades. Wolf in the Fold from Season 2 of Star Trek, the original series toss of Star Trek The Fold of the Wolf. Scotty, the plot of Wolf in the Fold from Star Trek. TOS is similar to that of many horror stories. Enterprise Chief Engineer Scotty wakes up at the scene of a horrific murder with a bloodied knife in his hand and no recollection of what transpired. There are several reasons why this episode is disturbing. It includes the gruesome killings of several women, which makes Scotty second-guess his sanity and his capabilities. In the end, it is discovered that Scotty had been possessed by a non-corporeal entity, which was the real killer, additionally known as Jack the Ripper. Despite the fact that it may have been one twist too many, Wolf in the Fold is a really scary Star Trek episode. Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 10, Hegemony. Star Trek Hegemony. Gorn Boudale. When the Cayuga and Captain Marie Boudale scream for help, the Starship Enterprise tracks them down, but all they discover is the wreckage of the Cayuga. Captain Pike and a few crew members must stow away on the planet Ferocious Beta to look for survivors as a Gorn hunting craft hovers overhead. They locate the wounded and bleeding survivors from the Cayuga's crew but must next devise a means of escape without affecting the Gorn. A fully grown Gorn battles Nurse Christine Chapel and Spock in the Cayuga's shell in a dramatic scene, with a number of crew members from the Enterprise and Cayuga being held hostage by the Gorn. Hegemony concludes on a horrific cliffhanger. Season 6, Episode 5 of Star Trek, The Next Generation. Schisms. Rikers. Star Trek TNG Schisms. TNG Schisms gradually transforms into a medical horror episode, despite the fact that the difficulties in this episode initially revolve around more sleep-related disorders. Dr. Beverly Crusher, who checks on the crew members when they start having sleep issues, finds something quite disturbing. Commander Will Riker's arm has reportedly been removed and reattached by mysterious aliens who have been occasionally kidnapping members of the Enterprise crew for experimentation. Riker lets himself be taken while still being aware after the crew realizes something is wrong. He is finally able to escape because of this and aid the Enterprise in avoiding the aliens, but it must have been a traumatic experience for him. Empok Nor of Star Trek, Deep Space Nine. Empok Nor skeleton from Star Trek. It turns out the Kardashian space station chief Miles O'Brien is leading a crew who is not as empty as they first thought. 2 Kardashian troops are still aboard the station, and the Deep Space Nine crew quickly learns that they are impacted by narcotics, making them more dangerous. The Kardashian troops then start pursuing O'Brien and his crew, killing a number of them. The deadly Kardashian warriors and concealed booby traps on this space station make it even worse than most abandoned locales. It makes sense that Brian Fuller wrote this episode, given its really unsettling images. He went on to create the artistically magnificent, but incredibly unsettling Hannibal television series and write for numerous Star Trek ventures. Scientific method of Star Trek, Voyager science in Star Trek. Voyager. Star Trek, Voyager's scientific method follows Captain Catherine Janeway and the crew of the US Voyager as they start to experience unexpected medical issues. This episode also concentrates on medical-related terror. Robert Picardo, who plays the ship's doctor, eventually discovers that the crew's DNA has been tampered with, perhaps leading to harmful mutations. Former Borg drone 7 of 9 has her optical implants adjusted by the doctor so that she can now see the previously unseen aliens. In a horrifying experiment on the crew of the Voyager, aliens pierce their brains with needles and attach various gadgets to them. Eventually, Janeway stops the invaders. However, this episode demonstrates that Star Trek can successfully handle terror. Stay tuned, because we have a mission to uncover the most enigmatic film secrets ever created. Remember, with Movie Spy, the truth is just one click away. Thanks for watching.